Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Dear students, today our topic is ionic compound. So, what are ionic compounds? Ionic compounds means those compounds containing ionic bonds are known as ionic compounds. Ionic compounds. The ionic compounds are made up of positively charged ions, that means cations, and negatively charged ions, that means anions. That is, the ionic compound consists of ions and not molecules. These ionic compounds are also called as electrovalent compounds. Electrovalent compounds. For example, NaCl, sodium chloride, potassium chloride, ammonium chloride, NH4Cl, calcium chloride, magnesium oxide. These are all ionic compounds. These are made of, for example, if we take sodium chloride, it's made up of sodium positive plus Cl negative ions. Potassium chloride is made of K positive Cl negative ions. Ammonium chloride NH4 positive and Cl negative. Calcium chloride Ca double positive plus and Cl negative. Mg magnesium positive plus O minus 2. These are ionic compounds: sodium chloride, potassium chloride, ammonium chloride, and calcium chloride, magnesium oxide. These are all ionic compounds, and they contain the ions: positive ions, that's cations, and negative ions, that is anions. That means they contain positive ions as well as negative ions. So these are the ionic compounds, and let's study about the main properties of the ionic compounds. Dear students, as we all know that these ionic compounds are the compounds containing ionic bonds. Containing ionic bonds are called ionic compounds. So let's study the properties of ionic compounds. Ionic compounds. First property is ionic compounds are usually crystalline solids. Ionic compounds are crystalline solids. That means they are made up of the crystal. For example, if we take sodium chloride, NaCl, is a crystalline solid. And these ionic compounds are solids because their positively charged ions attract one another strongly and form a regular crystal structure. As we all know that these ionic compounds are formed by the ionic bond, and ionic bond is a strong bond. Ionic bond is a strong bond. So the first property, that they are usually crystalline solids. And second property is ionic compounds have high melting point and high boiling point. If we take this example of this sodium chloride, if we take the example of the sodium chloride, NaCl, that means this NaCl, it has high melting point. Sodium chloride has a high melting point of 800 degrees Celsius, and its melting point of sodium chloride, and boiling point of sodium chloride is 1413 degrees Celsius. That means ionic compounds have high melting point and high boiling point. The third property is ionic compounds are usually soluble in water. They are usually soluble in water, soluble in water, but insoluble in organic solvents like ether, acetone, benzene, alcohol, kerosene, etc. Ionic compounds are usually soluble in water but insoluble in organic solvents like ether, alcohol, benzene, alcohol, etc. And the fourth property is ionic compounds conduct electricity when dissolved in water, when dissolved in water or when melted. Ionic compounds conduct electricity when they are dissolved in water or when melted. These ionic compounds conduct electricity. Ionic compounds conduct electricity because they contain charged particles called ions. Charged particles called ions. So these are the some important properties of the ionic compounds.